Hey, Jess. So let's talk a little bit about social media engagement
All
today.
right. Social media engagement's my favorite part about social media simply because it's about building relationships. When you engage with anybody, you want it to be authentic. You want there to be intent behind the message, just like you would in person. And I think my favorite part of social media is how that translates online.
Exactly. And one thing we want to say is engagement is conversation. So you explained it very nicely. Sometimes social media likes to use these terms that are a little bit confusing, but engagement simply means we go in and chat with other people right on the network.
Exactly. And we've talked about this before, but looking at it in the sense of like you're at a networking event, like you're physically there.
Yes.
When you put out content and you're commenting and things, you're not just shouting about your business over and over and over again. You want to meet people, have an introduction. There's an organic flow of conversation. And again, having that translate on social media profiles is so important for people to connect, want to follow, want to comment, want to keep the conversation going versus just you shouting your message over and over and over again, because at the end of the day, then it becomes just about you. And social media is meant to be social. It's about people. So when you have that authentic interaction and you're putting out posts that are relative to your target audience, then that is the best way, in my opinion, for success to come.
Yeah, especially with getting on and having those individual conversations, that is really big because it's so easy for someone to just post regularly every day and follow the basics. But engagement is more out of the way. It's definitely more of a thought process. And like you said, the comparison of a networking event is really key because you arrange time to go to a networking event, whether it's networking or an event or some type of business opportunity in
Yeah.
person. You're connecting with people one to one and making that time in your schedule. So with social media, even though you're not driving or going somewhere, it's about making time in your schedule to sit down, pull out your phone and network.
Absolutely. I mean, when you go to a networking event, you have an objective to network with like a certain group of people or a certain person. So with social media, it's the same thing. You're not, going there without a purpose. You have intent. So how can you utilize like what you want? How can you utilize social media to have that same effect? And it's like 10 times more powerful because like Instagram has like over 1 billion users. And so your range is like that much wider versus like being somewhere with 20 people. Not saying that physical social networking is not important, but the combination of the two to me is imperative. And, you know, I've been doing some reading on like the ROI of social media because everybody, wants like that, the numbers and the instant gratification and stuff like that. And part of social media in a marketing sense is the ROI is like being relevant, being present, people knowing who you are and what your message is. And obviously we want to turn those likes and comments into clients and customers, but it's like a interactive word of mouth at the end of the day. So when you're on social media, like for that, in the sense of social networking, word travels and word travels farther and wider than ever before.
I like how you explained it both ways because what you and I see with potential clients is they're so fixated on that ROI, right? That
Yeah.
typical, okay, they want to pay for a program or a service and they want to get those goals met.
Yes.
And what we see with social media a lot of times is because everyone's able to get on it, we really understand that there's more of a return outside of just getting that client or gaining those followers.
It's not so black and white.
It's not black and white at all.
Yeah.
We're in the gray, as we like to say. And
Yeah.
coming into it so new, like especially potential clients, they're used to seeing, okay, you post every day, you have some hashtags, you have your contact information, the basics, the 101 of social media, but engagement is more of a deeper dive into the followers that the client already has.
Yes. And I think a big mention for social media engagement is quality over quantity. I think some
Yes.
people do look at it so black and white, and people that are doing it on their own are very business minded. And for most of the things that they do operationally, that works for them. But in this whole new world of social media, not to us, but to most people that are diving into it,
Exactly.
they think, okay, let me do 20 comments. That should be good for today. But you and I know that saying things like cool post doesn't really go very far. So
Right.
like, let's go back to the networking event. Hey, cool shirt. And you walk away. Like what? That doesn't really do anything, right? So like
Yeah.
having meaningful comments, intent behind what you do is so important, not only just to start the conversation, but to continue. You know, what are you saying something that is going to prompt somebody to respond to you? Or are they just going to like it as like a thanks for stopping by?
Yeah, and
Like,
I like how you keep referencing the networking event, because so many times we need to talk on the level of the client. We know all the jargon, the
yeah.
marketing jargon,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't. And as much as we want to say that everyone's on social, everyone knows it, how many times are we getting on call or finding out that there are new people brand new to social media who just don't know?
Exactly.
And using that example of, if you're at a networking event or even an event, you walk up to someone, you're not just walking up to someone who's in their own crowd and saying, hi, I like your shirt, and walking away, or even just saying, hi, my name is X, here's my business, and walking away, like many people do on social media.
Yeah.
It's about introducing yourself, meeting them, staying in there for the conversation, back, forth, back, forth. I like to reference ping pong, ping pong,
Yeah.
ping pong. And then you get to a point in the development of conversation, and this is different for every person, where you then go in for the business ask, or you tell them about the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's received, like we're seeing, it's received so much better when we're having the conversation and then going for the ask.
Absolutely. It's an organic flow. Most relationships that you would build, whether it's personal or business, don't start off with a one comment or one direct message, or, you know, just about me. You want obviously the relationship, like if it's a product or service, like you want them to be able to benefit from it. And obviously you're benefiting from a business. So how can we balance that out in the most organic way possible? And in my opinion, one of those ways is to, like with the content, is just giving people what they want to hear, what they want to see, informing them, educating them, and entertaining them all at the same time. So if you are developing relationships with people during comments and direct messages, when they go back to your page, they can see that that's really who you are and what you're about. You're not just screaming what's on sale or what you want from them. You want to give to them, and then they will reciprocate that back to you if it's done in a authentic way.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you mentioned the content with that little bit of knowledge, a little bit of entertainment, and some of the value. A lot of times, what we think of social media is we're on there to put ourselves out there. We're on there to get attention, and it's
Yeah.
content, and it's running ads, and it's posting stories. But then it's the engagement. Then it's that undercurrent that you're not seeing if you just log on to anyone's Instagram page. Like when we go on to anyone's Instagram page, what do we see? The headshot, the bio, the content. We're
Mm-hmm.
not seeing them engaging with people, because engagement is more of, like we say, behind the scenes activity. It happens in the comment section. It happens in the DM. A lot of times it's really great when you're going for that comment and the DM, because it's 2 times likely that the individual will see it.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're noticing is when we put this in as a strategy for more the long term, that our clients are getting the recognition and credibility and all those goal-oriented words that they want.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it's, you know, again, with the engagement, it's like, here's a question, right? So when you tell a client that engagement is really important, but they may be that black and white type of personality and they can't see it on their page. So to them, what's the value? So you can explain the value, I think, in multiple ways. Not only are you building relationships and bringing people back, but if the conversation continues, then you're exposing your message to their audience, and it just allows you more of a chance to be seen and heard and for more people to follow you. Again, without, following to follow back or anything like that. It's through those conversations, it's through those comments that is just expanding your message, and taking advantage of the wide variety of ways to do that on social media that you couldn't otherwise do at a networking event. Not to keep bringing that up. But another point too, like with the content, meaning you're giving it to people, is if you're going to do a newspaper ad, your newspaper ad, we've talked about this before, goes through many different levels of people proving different things, and you have a short space to give your message. And that's to your audience to buy your product. But on social media, I've said this before, it's to be social first, hence social media. So you have to have that more conversational tone, but you have way more wiggle room to be able to send your message in different ways to benefit both you and your target audience.
Yeah, I also like the comparison to the print versus online. Print, you are working with another company and you have deadlines and all of that. And with social media, you have an infinite amount of opportunities to put your business or service out there and connect with that individual on a very one-to-one level.
Yes.
And one of the things we're seeing is engagement is good old-fashioned work effort. Many people pride themselves on how much work they put into their business. They've worked this amount of time, right? We see it in all the about me's. But now, especially since many people have all of those other pillars of marketing down because they are working with another company, social media is very much so an internal handling within the business. It's not something that you could just give over to a print company or a designer and have them put it together. We work with our clients, but we're working with them on their Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And we're the ones going in and plugging into this day in and day out, basically, with all this information. And it comes to a point with social media, you can reach so many people, but the real fruitful opportunity of this is getting that target audience, live, work, play, those geographic locations, those interests, and really messaging those individuals and not going in like it's a mailer and your list of services, but you're going in because you looked at their content and you like their post, or you both can relate with a certain interest.
Absolutely. And I feel like if you're only sending your business message through direct messenger, it could almost appear as spammy, just another way to get, a mailer of something that you might not be interested. Now you may be interested, but if it comes through, the message comes through in that specific way, again, it just looks like, how can us as a business benefit versus you? Like, we want to give the value, give you a reason to come back. And I want to also notate, when you were talking about all the work that goes behind social media, besides just a profile, because sometimes I think the profile, obviously super important, especially, on platforms like Instagram, because it is like storytelling through pictures. But the amount of work that goes into a successful social media marketing campaign is all those underlying layers. So it's almost like the profile can look like the tip of the iceberg. Have you ever seen that analogy on print? And everything below is like the engagement and finding your target audience and following them. All that stuff is so imperative to the outside picture, because if you just have a great looking profile, it's not going to do very much for you if no one's going to like any of your pictures or comment on any of your pictures or anything like that.
I completely get what you're saying. It's like many of our clients, and we're seeing a lot of people want to be public figures.
Yeah.
So they think they can just wake up one morning and they're instantaneously famous, and they're influential and they're a thought leader and all of that. But the people who are public figures and thought leaders and visionaries, they're people who work day in and day out, leverage a lot of different opportunities. And so are other individuals who, let's say, aren't public figures or have over 10K following.
Yeah.
It's about, do you focus on the numbers? Do you chase that constantly? Or do you, like we're saying with engagement, which is more specific to a prospective client, do you go in and say, who are the 1,000 followers that they have?
Yeah.
And they go one by one and say, okay, this person is someone who has more interest to them. So then they go in and they send over a message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, when we talk about strategy and what can make everything work with social media, a lot of the times one thing can look like so much to do, but without a combination of all of those things, for example, like when we were talking about how to get followers on Instagram without following people, how to get more comments. The research that I've done and like really diving into it, one will not work without the other. So like if you're going to get more followers, that's great. But what's more followers without any comments? I mean, the combination of the two strategies is imperative for you to grow. So there's many different levels. And honestly, like from an outside looking in, it can seem quite intimidating. But if you get into a routine with your consistency with these few methods in place, then it really won't seem as crazy as it initially did.
Exactly. And like you're saying, it's not about going through and implementing 10 different strategies on social media. It may be starting with 2 or even 1.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is social media engagement is a highly effective strategy. It's not something that is about the vanity or look at all these comments. It's more of a behind the scenes, but what we're seeing is the client likes it so much because we get to show them the comments and we get to show them the DMs.
Mm-hmm.
And they are seeing, oh, wow, like they're doing in person at that networking event, going up to one person at a time. If you're at a 300-person event, you're not talking to 300 people. You may talk to 10.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with engagement.
Mm-hmm.
We're following 5,000 people. We may engage with 5,000. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But realistically engaging with 100 or 50 of those individuals that are most interesting is such a better go at this.
Absolutely. And another solid point about social media and engagement is, okay, so those important things that we have to do take a lot of time. So if they take a lot of time to build, then there has to be like a level of patience involved, because nothing good comes easy though, in all seriousness. Like if it was easy to come that way, then that'd be great. So say you get a bunch of followers right away, that's great. But if none of those followers have anything to do with your business, would ever be interested or won't comment or anything, what's the point of that except for, like you said, those vanity metrics? Well, those vanity metrics don't take you very far. And that's why it takes all that time and effort to do the behind the scenes work, to give you the most authentic engagement possible. And that's what translates to people. I mean, at the end of the day too, everybody has very little attention span. I mean, just there's so much material. So much material.
All that.
So yeah, that's again why all that time, creating those intentful posts and having value behind all the content is going to take you farther than the person that's commenting 100 people saying cool post, nice, love it, all that stuff. So that's my opinion, but that's all good things take time, and taking the time and effort to really focus on underneath those underlying layers, I just think will take you so much farther than that quick fix for the vanity metric.
And we're not bashing, like, let's get this straight for a minute. We're not bashing having a lot of followers and comments, because
no, not at all.
Amazing thing to get 50 comments, 100.
That's the overall goal at the end of the day.
An amazing thing. But what some people fall into is they'll get sad, they'll be insecure, a lot of insecurities come out on social media, and they'll look at someone else in their industry and they'll say, wow, this person has 20,000 followers and they're getting engagement and they have that blue check. Then they look at them and say, what's going on? What are they doing that they're not? And they see that number, and that's why it becomes this chase to the number.
Yeah.
It's not about chasing the number, because you might not get to 20,000. It's about the journey in the process of doing that. One of the things that Jess and I make sure to do is compliance on the platforms, because we're seeing all the social platforms, they're being very strict with how much activity you make on social media in one day. How many times have you and I run into, like, ooh, we made one too many comments today, we got shut down or permanently removed?
Yeah, they think you're a robot in there just trying to like and comment as many things as possible. And I mean, at the end of the day, I said this a couple minutes ago, social media is meant to be social first. Like, every one of those platforms created their platform not for businesses to promote, but it eventually evolved into a place where we can all ask each other what they use for a business and use the search bar and try to find the business. So it eventually evolved to a place where we can all be on the same platform. But it started off being authentic. And so if businesses are going to join, you have to have that level of authenticity to bring to the table, I feel, in order to play. And that's what's going to make you successful versus somebody that's just using it so like an old school marketing tool, like newspaper, like print, like anything like that with that social aspect.
That involves a lot of confusion is too many people are asking their friends or colleagues what they do, and they're getting the wrong advice, and they don't know it's the wrong advice.
Yeah.
They may never know it's the wrong or not the best way to go about it. So as far as research, really just look at what's working for that person, or if you look on your own platforms, like we do many times, looking at my platform will say, what is the most popular piece of content going on stories? What do you want to see as far as the audience goes?
Absolutely. And also earlier you said, people are comparing their profiles to other people's profiles that have a lot more followers.
Yes.
And that could be upsetting. But if you actually ask that person how they got there, I'm sure you would be surprised. Wow, it took you that long to get there. Wow, these are the steps that you took. But most people are just looking at it and then looking at theirs, and the comparison alone, they either just want to give up or they think that they're doing something wrong. But, with all marketing, there's a level of patience, which, that's always like the stigma with marketing. Like, everybody wants their instant gratification in every level, but it's worth the wait if you do it the right way.
Yeah, and it's all about patience, and it's all about, outline your target audience. So just to talk about that briefly, live, work, play. Where's your target audience as far as geographic locations? What are their interests? What do they like to do for fun? What places do they go? And you have a sea of businesses that you can go on to as a user and find those different places and add individuals, or you advertise to them. And with those, let's say, social media influencers, they are doing a lot of things that you don't see. So it's what you see and what you don't see. It's highly likely they are going about the engagement strategy. And so you can't really track engagement like you can number of posts a day. I mean, we've done it ourselves in many ways and are successful with it. But it really is about going into hashtags and sitting on social media for, whether you time yourself at an hour or you go, okay, 10 accounts per day, whatever that first starting point is, just make sure you're consistent with it like you are with posting or like you are with any other area of your business.
Yeah, consistency is key with everything, but especially social media, because if you dip off for a little bit or you stop talking to people for a little bit, it's like, where'd you go? you know,
Where did you go?
it's very obvious. And like also thinking of engagement in this way. So if you're only commenting back when people comment on your stuff on your profile, it's very similar to, you can only come to me. I'm never going to come to you in a relationship. So, you know, you want to seek out those individuals and then they will seek you out in return. It's again, part of that balance and part of that natural social interaction that you would see at a networking event or business meeting or something like that.
Absolutely. Totally agree, Jess. Are there any final thoughts that you have about social media engagement?
I feel like I can't reiterate enough the quality over quantity statement, which is so simple, but it's so important for every aspect of social media to not just post because you want to post 3 times a day. Like, you want intent behind each one of those posts. You don't want to comment just to comment. You need to comment with value to continue to bring people back. So I always think less is more, as long as you focus on the value and the meaning and the authenticity that is your message. And I think that will lead you to success, whether personal, but especially on social.
Absolutely. It is about having time for it, learning about it by watching, us talk about it right here. And it's about just being patient. Social media is not instant gratification. It's not like we hear a lot, let's see where we are in 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
It is good to have markers, and I certainly have markers for certain things, but it's also about, okay, in order to meet those markers of 3 to 6 months, what are you doing every single day? Because if you're putting the energy into, web banners and print and other modes of marketing, but not into social media, and you think magic is going to happen, magic won't happen.
Yep. If you get on your bike once a week, it's going to take you a lot longer to learn how to ride your bike.
Absolutely.
A few minutes. Get on it a few minutes every day.
Yes. Well, that's it for today. Jess, thank you for joining me on the conversation.
Of course.
Okay. See you soon.
Yeah.